Happy Monday, Michigan fans. Michigan might not be just building a quarterback room, they might be building a pipeline. Welcome to Wolverines Daily, your go-to for everything Michigan football. I am your host, Coach Little C. Today we talk about quarterback momentum, key recruiting battles, and spring standouts as Coach Whittingham talks about spring ball. So let's get into it. Michigan might not be just building a quarterback room. They might be building a quarterback pipeline. The Michigan Wolverines football already signed two quarterbacks in the 26 class in Tommy Carr and Brady Schmeigel, but now all signs point to Michigan going for two. Yes, two signal callers in the 2027 class. We already know about Camden Lapati. There's real momentum there with predictions trending towards a flip to Michigan, which would be huge for the Wolverines. But now here's another name to start thinking about as the name is starting to emerge more and more, and there's real trend building here in Ann Arbor. The name Thaddeus Thatcher, a three-star quarterback out of Vegas who just took a visit to Ann Arbor, and immediately after, he picked up an offer and predictions started rolling in from all recruiting sites. That's not coincidence, that's momentum, and that's what we've been talking about on this show is Coach Whittingham and this staff is building a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail, and things are starting to heat up for the Wolverines. Thatcher was previously committed to Utah, but when Kyle Whittingham and Jason Beck and Coy Detmer made the move to Ann Arbor, things changed. And now we've talked about a lot on this show, connections, communications, the relationships that they've been building on the recruiting pipeline. And this one hits home for the folks in Ann Arbor. It's not a cold introduction, it's a continuation, and that's how you win recruitment battles. Now, add this wrinkle. Thatcher's brother is also a 6'4" standout wide receiver who is also interested in Michigan. He was on a recruiting visit at the same time as his brother, former five-star talent, battled through injury, now healthy, back on the rise. So now you're not just recruiting a quarterback, you might be landing a quarterback wide receiver combo that would be absolutely huge for Michigan as far as the skilled positions goes. Because it's not just about adding depth. It's about building chemistry. It's about building continuity and stacking talent at the most important positions on the field, and that's the quarterback and the skill positions. With this unit, seems to be trending in the right direction. Michigan's loading up, and if they land both Lapati and Thatcher, that quarterback room goes from solid to strong, and now that unit suddenly becomes one of the top units on this team. Michigan is also making a move on the recruiting trail as this one hits the heart in the state of Ohio. Yes, the state of Ohio and Buckeye land. Michigan is set to host four-star safety Tristan Hughes for an official visit on June 12th through the 14th, and this is a name we should all know if we're Michigan fans. Tristan Hughes, right from the state of Ohio, because he's entering right now decision mode. He said it to himself. He's starting to wind things down, take a serious look at where he stands, where he wants to play, and when recruits get to that stage, every visit becomes critical. And I've talked a lot about this show. If you can get them to campus, to see the university, to start dealing with and seeing how practice is run in spring ball, you start building those relationships, you see the big house, you really get sold on the facilities. If you get them to campus, that's one of the biggest steps of any school as far as recruiting goes. Now, here's where it stands out. Hughes right now is prioritizing early playing time, development, education, but also like location. And guess what? He's from Rocky River, Ohio, which is just about 2 hours from Ann Arbor. The proximity, I think that's going to be a really big factor here. And this is where the relationship comes into play again. Michigan safety coach Tyler Stockton offered him. And since then, they've been talking every single week. That consistency starting to build. You're starting to build trust. And that's how you win the recruitment battles, is that trust factor. Let's not ignore the bigger picture. Michigan going into Ohio, landing a top talent, that's always going to matter, especially with the game looming over everything. And if Michigan can go into the state of Ohio and land one of the top recruits in that state, that makes for the game, that last game of the year, even more special. Hughes mentioned it. Growing up in Ohio, you know what Michigan and Ohio State means. So when Michigan offers first, it hits different. Now Michigan isn't alone. He's got official visits lined up. Kentucky, Virginia Tech, and schools like Miami, Auburn, Purdue are in the mix. But here's why I think this is key. Michigan getting him on campus at the right time, right before decision mode. And if that visit goes well, this could get very interesting quickly for the Wolverines. He might just be the next piece in the missing pieces to the puzzle for the Wolverines on the recruiting trail. Michigan is making a serious push out west. More recruiting news over the weekend, and it's paying off for the Wolverines. The Michigan football has officially cracked the top 7 for 4-star California safety Paul Moala, and this is a big one because right now, Moala isn't just interested. Michigan is firmly in the mix. Top 2, according to Moala's words. He just wrapped up a multi-day visit to Ann Arbor with family, and the reaction, everything was extremely positive. He called the visit, I quote, great, praised the staff's hospitality, and even said he can see himself coming back. And that's exactly what you want to hear at this stage of the recruitment battle. And here's the timing. He's set to return for an official visit on June 19th. And that's when things get real. Let's talk about the player for a little bit because this isn't just another name. Moala is a versatile defensive back with 4-star rating, potential power, legit NFL upside. He's got good size, physicality, instincts to play free safety, but also flexibility to cover like a corner. He can play on the wide out. He can play in the slot. He's a big physical kid, aggressive, plays downhill, always around the football. And while things are always starting to heat up, Michigan continues to make noise under Kyle Whittingham on the recruiting stage. And for Paul Moala, he might be the next big piece in what's becoming a really, really strong 2027 class. Michigan deep into spring ball with just another full week left. Things are starting to trend in the right direction. And one thing I always like to say as a coach, I love watching press conferences. I love listening to coaches talk about the team. I really like not only when they talk about the team, but when they really dive into the day-to-day. And Michigan got 10 practices in, 5 more to go before the big spring game on April 18th. And Kyle Whittingham talked over this weekend, had a lot of good things that he said, and it's been a very productive spring. Now, new schemes on both sides of the ball we talked about. They've been installed. No bad practices from Kyle Whittingham, says that's a win. And most importantly, and I said this with Bryce Underwood, I think this would go for a lot of the veterans back, nobody took a step backwards. And I think that is huge because at this point in the season, when you're halfway through spring ball, you want to continue to move forward and build some momentum headed into fall practice. That's how you build consistency. Now, there was one tough blow. Running back Capano went down with season-ending injury. That's a loss, but overall, the team has stayed very healthy, according to Whittingham. But I want to talk about some key things that he talked about in the press conference. He talked about some of the standouts when asked who's been standing out through spring practice. Tommy Carr is emerging as a real factor right now. He said, trending right now, that if the season was starting today, he would be quarterback number 2 behind Bryce Underwood, and I think that would be huge for Michigan. At wide receiver, freshman Salesi Moa is turning heads early, and that's a great sign for the future of this offense. I talked about Savion Hyder at running back. His ability to pass protect as a true freshman is something that coaches love to see, and I think that's huge because at times when you're in there, it's not all about making plays in the backfield or catching a ball in space, running downhill. You got to be able to pick up blitz packages and protect your quarterback. And Coach Whittingham and the staff has been very, very impressed with him so far through camp. Jay Hill's system is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing at this point, challenging quarterbacks, challenging Bryce Underwood with multiple looks and disguises, And that's how you develop a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, when you can throw him multiple looks early in the offseason. It's only going to get not just Bryce Underwood, it's going to get these guys game ready, game speed, to where they're not going to be surprised by any look that's thrown at them. Up front, the defensive line might be the strongest group. According to Coach Witt, they feel really confident with this group, which is a major building block. Not all perfect. He did say there were two areas to watch, and this is no surprise to me. I've talked a lot about this. It's the lack of experience at the linebacker position and the depth in the secondary. Those will be the two groups that develop over the summer, heading into fall camp. And I talked about that. That linebacking crew is young. The DBs, extremely confident in the ones. It's finding that depth behind the ones to be able to get ready for game speed in the game. Now, he did talk about a little bit, Coach Whittingham, for the spring game. He said there are going to be about 15 to 18 guys that'll probably sit this out. You're not going to see a lot of the true ones. This might end up being your 2s against 3s with some 1s in there. But I don't disagree with Coach Whittingham. You want guys healthy. You already know who the true number 1s are. You're trying to find that depth of who's going to be number 2. And then you give those guys that opportunity to make some plays. And maybe your 3s move up to the 2s, or your 2s have a chance to move up into that 1 spot. But I think it'll be good for Michigan. As long as they can stay healthy, it'll be a true inter-squad scrimmage with two groups. But Coach Witt did say that if for some reason they get thin at any of the position groups, they might do it offense versus defense, and they might go over to a point system. So we'll see. Knock on wood, everything's went according to plan. And the biggest thing for me is your offense and defensive schemes have already been installed, which is huge to wrap up spring ball. So that's going to be Wolverines Daily. I was happy to be back with everybody today on Monday. I'm Coach Little C. Set the tone, stay the standard, and go blue. And make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for daily Michigan updates you will not want to miss. And we'll see you again tomorrow right here on Wolverines Daily. Go blue.